Hello, look who it is. It's Jen Ives. And this is Lobotomy World, the podcast, back for another glorious season in 2026. And I know what you're thinking, long-suffering lobotomites. You're thinking, hold on a minute, I thought Jen said the podcast was over. I'm not doing the podcast anymore. Well, that is merely a manifestation of my own A, insecurities, and 2, I subsection 3, mental wobbliness / illness, feel like I'm going a bit crazy. So, take everything I say with a pinch of salt, because, even if I say, the world's awful now, I can't cope with it, I don't want to talk about stuff on the internet anymore, likelihood is I will come back. And I tried to record one of these already. I set up all my new little bits. I don't know if you've noticed, but because I'm serious about bringing the podcast back, this isn't just a bump in the road. I want to do it. I've decided. I woke up and I looked podcasting in the face and I said, yes, I want that too. I bought a webcam, which is nuts because I have cameras. I have cameras coming out of my goddamn butt. But what I wanted, I thought I need to streamline this experience. If I'm going to podcast, if I'm going to be serious about this, if I'm going to do this every flipping week, I need it as easy to set up as possible. I need a good webcam. Shout out to the Logi, whatever it's called, Logi Pro, whatever. Got a good deal, eBay. Here's a piece of advice. If you want a good webcam, go on eBay. You can get like £100 webcam for like £35. And it works. Anyway, it's not an endorsement for Logi Pro, whatever it's called. I set up my lights, sat on my sofa, and I said, let's bring in 2026 podcast style. And look, the world is awful right now. And I don't know how you feel. I know how I feel about it. Maybe you can relate. I feel like things are getting weird and bad. I'm not going to dwell on it, but what I will say is sometimes it's better to brace those things together. Let's look at those things, and sometimes let's not look at those things. We can talk about trans issues too, or we cannot. I realised that, there's enough doom and gloom to go around. But also we don't have to focus on doom and gloom. We can just be silly. But I want the podcast to be easy. I want it to be something that I can just switch on and just do, with as little editing as possible. And that's sort of what this is. So I won't go too into it. I won't bore you with all the details. What I will say is thank you for all the nice comments I had, just kind of reiterating that, saying, listen, Jen, you could read the flipping phone book and we'd still listen. And I thought, yeah, that's nice. That's a good idea. What's a phone book? No, I'm old enough. I'm well old enough to remember the phone book. We had a yellow pages in the under the stairs. We would keep it. Let's talk about that for a second. How crazy is that there used to be so few businesses and telephone numbers that it was just like, oh yeah, we'll put them all in print every year. Obviously, there were numbers that weren't in the yellow pages, but anyone who was anyone, if you were somebody, you were in the yellow pages. I don't think I've ever been in the yellow pages. But the yellow pages are now lost to time, aren't they? They're something that people don't care about anymore because the internet came and it destroyed the Yellow Pages. We're not just going to talk about the Yellow Pages, but I will show you what I'm talking about. If you don't know what the Yellow Pages are, let me show you what Yellow Pages is. I bet if I type it in, we get the stupid advert. There we go. Yeah, stupid old advert for Yellow Pages. Let me get this. Let me get this up for you.
I don't suppose you have a copy of Fly Fishing by J.R. Hartley. It is rather old. It's by J.R. Hartley.
So this old man, he's looking for something. He's looking for some sort of book. He's going to every bookshop like, hey, have you got this book?
Never mind. There's still a few more to try.
Good old Yellow Pages. We don't just help with the nasty things in life, like a blocked drain. We're there for the nice things, too.
You do? Oh, that's wonderful. Can you keep it for me? My name, oh yes, it's J.R. Hartley.
See, the twist was... The twist was that it was his own book that he was looking for. Whereas nowadays, if you were looking for that book, what you would do is you just go on Amazon, wouldn't you? You'd go on Amazon and you'd go, oh yeah, I'll just buy it off Amazon. Speaking of which, just to segue neatly into something completely unrelated. See that? That's my book. I know I made a video about it already, but you know, if you're just listening to the podcast, then you can't see, but I'm holding up a copy of my book, which is called Jump Doggy, a collection of short stories by Jen Ives, 14 in total. Let me just read you the back of this here. So it says, cover art by William Stone. That's true. Look at that great cover art. That was by William Stone. An appointment at the gender clinic gone awry. A cancelled second-wave feminist author experiencing an identity crisis. A trans woman's funeral ruined. In her first collection of short stories, Jen Ives treats you to 14 darkly funny tales, inspired by the ever-exhausting social landscape that is life as a trans person in the United Kingdom. Many of the stories in this book explore themes of gender identity, social politics, bodily autonomy, death, and there's even one about a robot chimp, just to keep the boys interested. A little bit of, you know, that classic Jen Ives humour there. So, be a good doggy and jump, why don't you? After all, what's the worst that could happen? And this is a proper book. Like, it has pages, lots of words. It has, how many pages does it have? 235 pages of pure story. 14 short stories. That's loads of short stories. More short stories than you could ever probably want. 14 of them. And this is out now. So if you would like a copy of it, all you got to do is go in the link in the bio, Amazon, and order one. You can get it. Also, the ebook version of it, the Kindle version, is out tomorrow. That'll be the 1st of February. So that's exciting, isn't it? And listen, this has been out for a little while now. This has been out for not a massive, like a week probably. And it's been lovely. You know, I've had sales. People have bought it. I've had lovely feedback on it. Let me share you a little bit of the feedback that I've had on the book, and then I'll talk to you a little bit about the journey that I've had in kind of self-publishing. I thought that would be a nice little topic for the podcast. But let me just pat myself on the back a little bit here. So here it is, Jump Doggy. I don't know if you can see that. I hope you can. But if you see here, we've had two reviews. 5 stars. And I'm telling you, none of those are me. I didn't review it 5 stars. I would never do anything as gauche as that. But if we click on the reviews here, so one person has actually an Amazon customer has actually written a review, which is lovely. I'm going to read it. As you can see, it's a verified purchase. In these short stories, Jen Ives manages to capture the... Oh gosh, bit of indigestion there. Ruined my own review. Let's go again. In these short stories, Jen Ives manages to capture the dystopia of modern trans life with a large helping of humour/horror. Every story takes you into a different world, which may leave you laughing, crying, and everything in between. Definitely recommend this book to anyone who cares about excellent storytelling. Now, I don't know who left that review, but, you know, thank you. It's really, really nice, really useful thing to have. Right, now let me tell you a little bit about the process. Now, obviously, I've been working on this book for a while. I've been working on it for like about a year, writing short stories here and there. I'm also working on a novel. I'm on my third draft of a proper epic novel kind of thing. You know, my real... I'm not going to say magnum opus, that would be arrogant. But my real, like, you know, introduction into, like, I've got this story that I want to tell. You know, all those short stories, they were all stories that I wanted to tell, but I've got one story in particular which I was like, this is a novel. This needs to be a novel. And I have been doing the thing that everybody does who wants to get into writing. You know, I've been pitching. I've been messaging publishers, literary agents. And it's hard work. You know, if you've ever read anything like, you know, Stephen King's On Writing or anything like that, you'll know that rejection is a big part of the process. And listen, rejection is not new to me, okay? I was born into rejection, okay? I was adopted. That's true. That's a true Jen Ives fact, a lesser-known Jen Ives fact. When I was born, my birth mother, God bless her, whoever she is, Sarah, I know that is her name. I know that much. She was like, ugh, I don't want this baby. This baby's gross. So she was like, well, you know, I'll put it up for adoption. And so and look, I'm not bitter about it at all. I had an okay life. It was all right. But what I'm trying to say is that I understand rejection. Okay? I understand it. You could say I understand rejection. You know, when I was doing the whole stand-up comedy thing regularly, I had an agent, but God, it took me a long time to get that agent. It was hard work. I felt like I really had to prove myself. And if I don't say so, you know, I felt like I had to do it more than some of my peers. You know, I really felt like I was almost begging for an agent, you know. A lot of people aren't interested. A lot of people don't have trust in you. And in hindsight, they were probably right, because look what I did with comedy. I squandered it up the bloody wall. That being said, you know, I had a lot of rejections, and it's hard. It takes its toll. And the same has been true with this process, you know. I had a lot of positive leads. I even had someone from Penguin Publishing get in contact with me. They were like, oh, we're really interested in... This is true. This is 100% true. They were like, we're really interested in, you know, what you've been working on. Because I'm very good, I think, at building hype for myself a little bit. Because I've always had to, like, learn how to do that. So online, you know, I was posting stuff and, you know, people were kind enough to share it. And then that's how I kind of got them interested. But then when it came to actually sharing my work with them, they were a bit like, oh, it's not what we're looking for. Which is what they always say. Or they say like, yeah, we love it. It's really great, really unique. But it's not the kind of thing we can imagine representing. Which is just a nice way, really. Just a kinder way of saying it doesn't have sale value, you know, like we can't imagine it selling any. And it's hard, you know, it's a difficult pill to swallow. And I didn't want to do self-publishing because obviously, like, let's be honest, self-publishing is a really great tool if you are like a terrorist. It's really great if you're like a crank, something like that. You know, you want to teach people how to manufacture a bomb out of bleach and mouse traps or something. But in terms of fiction, you know, it's always better to have the support of the industry behind you. To have, you know, people saying, no, this is better than the regular crap. The dirge of crap that's out there. But at the same time, I also realise, humbly, because I am capable of it, that I have no reputation in regards to fiction, you know? I mean, I have writing credits, TV and radio and blah, blah, blah. But literature's a different world, has different rules, has different gatekeepers, is a whole thing. And I guess we live in a modern age, don't we, where everyone is trying to get their piece of the pie. And the way that you're supposed to do it now, they say, is social media. You know, you're supposed to be posting every goddamn day, making shorts, making reels, making TikToks, making Vines, making Periscopes. You have to be out there. You have to be doing it. You have to be constantly visible in order to gain any attention, and that's something I really struggle with. I didn't want to do that. Like, I'll play the game if I have to, but I've tried that and I can't do it. I'm an old soul. Plus I'm lazy. So I thought, you know what? I'm tired of the rejection. I understand the DIY philosophy a little bit. You know, I have a Patreon. I know a little bit about all that. So I thought, well, I'll swallow my pride, gulp, and I'll just do it. I'll just flip it, do it. I'll just put out a goddamn compilation of short stories that I'm proud of. I'll work hard on it. I'll try my best to format it properly. And I'll put it out. You know, I'll self-publish in the spirit of the humble zine. Although this isn't a zine, this is like a proper book. It has a barcode and everything. I was very impressed with how it came out. And, you know, I'm very happy with the response. I even had a couple of bookshops, independent queer bookshops, reach out to me and be like, we'll stock a few. Send them this our way. We'd love to stock a couple. So I thought, wow, you know, this really is it. This is okay, you know, doing it kind of independently. And I say doing it independently, I mean, I have chosen to do it on Amazon. And I was umming and ahhing a little bit about that too. I mean, it's not ideal. You know, I'm not the biggest fan of Amazon. But let's be real, I am, like a lot of other people, a huge hypocrite. I do use Amazon. I do rely on Amazon to send me things here and there. I have an Amazon Prime account, which I'm probably going to delete. Like, I'm going to stop doing that because I haven't watched anything on there in ages. But I did it on Amazon because I'm trying to like simplify. I'm trying to make things as easy as possible, and it was pretty easy to do. And I totally understand if you don't, you know, want to support Amazon and stuff like that. I totally get it. It's a completely valid criticism. Ultimately, Amazon is one of the most evil corporations run by an absolute demon. But you know what? Find me a corporation that ain't. I'm trying. I'm trying, but my goal is, the dream is that, you know, I can sell these independently and we can cut out the Amazon middleman and just get on with it. Just get on with it. But one of the other things about self-publishing is it is quite difficult because unless you have a lot of money up front where you can just, and you can just be like, oh, just buy 100 books, say. That's expensive. And then to post them off, and I'm not particularly business minded. I'm very like terrible at money and stuff like that. Like, I just filled in my tax return for this year, and I've done it a couple of times, and I still don't know if I did it right. You know, the tax return for self-employment is a nightmare. Like, it keeps you up at night. It does. And I always think, oh, this year it'll be perfect. I'll do it really well. I'll have all my invoices. I'll keep records of everything like they say you're supposed to. But I probably won't. It'll probably be a shit show. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make on this whole thing is that there's a book, a physical book that I'm very proud of, and if you would like one, you can get one. It's the longest ever ad, but just allow me to be proud of myself for 5 minutes, please. Okay, I'm very happy with it. Look at it. It's pretty, and the stories ain't bad. You know, there's some good stuff in it. I was gonna read a story on here. I tried to do that. I actually filmed like a test podcast episode yesterday, and I was just like, oh god, don't get me wrong, I love the stories, but I was like, I can't read this. You know when you like work on something for a really long time, and then you look over it and you're just like, I've been in this world for too long. I'm ready to move on to the next thing now. That's kind of how I feel about that. But yeah, so if you are a literary agent watching this, or God, even a publisher, and you don't have to be big, you could be small publisher, whatever. I have a very interesting, weird, funny, dark, cracking debut novel in the works. So my goal is, it would be nice not to self-publish that one. It'd be nice to have a bit of support behind it. So yeah, let me know. Anyway, enough about the book, and let's get on with the actual show, because there is a show. I have a document full of things that I find interesting, that I've been thinking about recently, that I think would make a pretty good show. By the way, I'm a bit self-conscious about this. There's a Labubu there, okay? And there's a Labubu there. And I just want to tell you that, firstly, that Labubu is fake as hell. It's not real. That is a huge Labubu knockoff. I mean, you can probably tell even from where you are that one is like... It's not a bad fake, but it's 100% a fake, okay? And that was the first ever Labubu I owned. It was a fake one. And I knew it was fake, and I don't care. It was like, it felt good to have it. Okay? I'm not above it. This one is real. This is a proper real Labubu, and you can really tell, because when you feel it, you're like, this is a high quality Labubu. It was, but I didn't buy it. I don't want you to think that I'm rich now, that I'm book rich, and I'm just buying all these Labubus. My boyfriend has a colleague at work who was big into the whole Labubu thing. Apparently, he told me that she had tens of Labubus in a drawer at work. A drawer. Why they were at work, I don't know. But like so many people, apparently she grew out of her Labubu phase. Okay, she grew out of it. And so she very generously gave away her Labubus. And she gave 2 Labubus to my boyfriend Christian, who then dutifully brought them home to me to look after and care for and love. So, back on the theme of adoption, I'm sort of like, I've adopted them. So basically, if you have any Labubus that you no longer want, that you now hate, I will adopt your Labubu's. I just don't want you to think that I'm like some Labubu head, because I'm not. Alright? I don't care about Labubu's. Anyway, on with the show. Epstein. Let's talk about Epstein a little bit. It's the elephant in the room. No, I mean, look, I've been thinking about this whole Epstein thing for a while. For my sins, I'm interested in it. Because, and I know everyone is talking about it right now, and listen, I'll be real with you, I don't have anything new or illuminating that I could possibly bring to it. But a couple of months ago, I did read the entire Virginia Giuffre autobiography. It's horrible. I mean, it's great. It's really well written. She was a really good writer, I think. She could have done that. That could have been something that she went on to do, and it's really sad what happened to her, and I think is awful. But when I say the book's awful, I mean like it's a hard read. The things that she talks about and the situations that she was in. And I'm not going to go into all that. Your imagination. I mean, read the book. It's a good book if you can stomach that kind of thing. But I think ultimately, it's just so fascinating, isn't it? This whole thing. I mean, I don't even think of it as from a true crime point of view. It's fascinating in terms of like just the whole clandestine nature of it. Just how seedy and like, I mean, so when I was growing up, I was always very skeptical of and hesitant to engage in conspiracy theories and things like that. I think I have a pretty good head about myself, about conspiracy culture, and I'm not buying into every not so thing. When I was about 15, a lot of my friends actually at the time were really getting into Alex Jones. This was before he was like a really super political figure. He was more anti-establishment, I guess, but he was still nuts, And they were all really getting into him, particularly because of his 9/11 commentary, which was really, he was like ahead of the curve on all that stuff, and I never really bought into a lot of that either. And I was always very skeptical of him and all of that, and I was right to be, because the guy's a loon. And worse than that with Alex Jones is when he went from being this anti-establishment, anti-government, like I don't trust any of them, he went to basically becoming like a huge establishment guy, a huge like Trump guy, and you can't be that. However, there was a slight turning point for me. Not turning point USA. It was because I was always a big Jon Ronson fan. Jon Ronson, he wrote like The Psychopath Test and So You've Been Publicly Shamed, and one of his early works, he basically, if you don't know, he's a British journalist. He's often compared to Louis Theroux. He was making documentaries back in the day for like Channel 4 and stuff like that. He's really great, but he's not like Louis Theroux in the sense that like he's not documentary first. He's a writer. He's a literary journalist, and his books are great. They're really funny, really fascinating. Can't recommend him highly enough. But he had, back in the day, he had a series called Jon Ronson On, which was a radio series, and as part of that series and part of his book Them, Adventures with Extremists, I think it's called, he had this documentary series where he was hanging out with Alex Jones, basically. And in one of these episodes, they infiltrate, that's the mission of the episode, they want to infiltrate Bohemian Grove. Now, again, I don't know if you know about Bohemian Grove, but what Bohemian Grove is it's basically like a country club kind of thing. It's like a campsite, big, I mean, that's not doing it justice, it's huge. It's like this big part of the California woods, basically, where the legend has it, the tale is, The conspiracy is that government elites, powerful types, politicians, businessmen, and it's all men, they meet every year, they meet at this Bohemian Grove, and they engage in strange sex acts with each other, homoerotic things. They piss up on the side of trees, and they worship a giant stone owl called Moloch, and they do a sacrifice of a child on an altar by the lake. And obviously when you hear this stuff, you go, yeah, alright, whatever. Alright, Alex, calm down. And in the documentary, that's very much Jon Ronson's point of view a little bit, He's like, when I first met Alex Jones, I was taken aback by how, that... I was just trying to find an excuse to do my Jon Ronson impression. If there are any Jon Ronson heads out there, you'll enjoy my Jon Ronson impression. When I first met Justine Sacco, she was flying in an aeroplane, and then when the plane came down, she was cancelled or something. The point is, right, that in this documentary, they decide that they're going to infiltrate Bohemian Grove. They're like, if this is a real thing, let's find out. And they do, they break into it, and they capture on film some insane stuff. They capture the sacrifice and the worshipping of a big owl. And you're like, oh, is it real? And, spoiler warning, it is real, okay? It does happen. It is a thing that happens. This is like a men's club that exists where these guys go and they... Well, but this is where it gets interesting, right? Because one of the things that I found most interesting about this documentary was sort of how each of them, Alex Jones and Jon Ronson, what they came away with thinking about it. Just to say, the sacrifice is not a real sacrifice. They sacrifice, it's like Guy Fawkes, it's like Bonfire Night. They sacrifice a effigy, which is supposed to apparently symbolise care or worries or whatever. And, the whole symbolism of it is they burn this effigy, and it's like, we got no worries for one night or whatever, and then we have to go back to being the rulers and movers and shakers of the world and have loads of responsibilities. And I think that was like Jon Ronson's kind of takeaway from it. He's like, Alex thinks they sacrificed a real child. I think that it's just a bunch of wealthy elites trying to shake loose, like that kind of thing. But Alex is like, they're killing babies, whatever. But regardless of what... it is real. Let me just say this. It is a real thing that happens. You can look it up. I know this sounds really conspiratorial, but that's the fascinating thing about it is a real men's club. It is a real place where presidents and people like that, CEOs, men go and... I don't know what they do. Get drunk, take drugs maybe. They probably do engage in some homosexual activities because it's so goddamn taboo still, isn't it? They probably want to be like, yeah, we want to suck each other off a little bit. Let us do it, And I support that. Let them do that. Nowadays you can go on YouTube and you can watch YouTubers with GoPros strapped to their head, like breaking into the Grove and like finding documentation, and the documentation and stuff, it's not a secret really. It's one of the world's worst kept secrets. Like, there's this woman who lives nearby in like a cabin. She's like this old hippie, and she has been like keeping an eye on Bohemian Grove for years and years and years. She like has loads of their paperwork, she has loads of their pamphlets that they print, and like they have like whole timetables of stuff they're doing. They put on plays, they dress up. It's like it's weird, but you can kind of comprehend it, in a way. So what I'm trying to say is that I'm not conspiratorially minded. I don't go in for conspiracies so much. However, some are real. There are real things. And I think, just to circle back to Epstein, what we were talking about, the whole Epstein thing is something that there have been rumours about for years, little trickles of information, and it's something that we have been told time and time again by, for lack of a better term, the powers that be, to not worry about. It's not real. It's an over-exaggeration, this and that. But now we're realising, it's coming to light, that actually, not only is it real, but it's way worse than you ever could have imagined. It's more depraved and more terrifying. And I think what fascinates me about it, and I think would fascinate anybody, it should fascinate you, is that the way that we perceive reality, the way that we view our world, it's all relative. And I'm not saying that everything has a seedy, murky underbelly. But what I am saying is that there are seedy, murky underbellies, and we can go our whole life sometimes without even realising it because we're not privy to it. It's seeing behind the veil. There are things out there that are awful and terrifying, but also incredibly well hidden. And I'm just kind of fascinated by that, philosophically, and also just generally kind of like, I don't know, like I don't really have the words to even articulate how I feel about the whole Epstein thing. I think it's disgusting, but also I think it's deeply, deeply fascinating. So, one of the reasons why I'm even talking about this is because you may or may not know, the DOJ, Department of Justice, they just yesterday put out another batch of Epstein files. And guess how many they put out? 3 squillion. No, not 3 squillion. 3 million. Which is still an incomprehensible number. 3 million files. And it gets me to wondering, why do they do it like that? Why do they put them out in these kind of incomprehensible batches? Is it so they can be like, oh, well, we did put it out, but then we took some away again, we put, because they do that. They put them out and then they redact and all this kind of stuff. But it's like, who's got the time to go through them all? Well, I'll tell you who's got the time. Not me. I did have a look, but I couldn't really figure it out. I'm not good with government websites. But I'll tell you who is good with that kind of stuff. My old friends, the BBC. So let's just have a look. And I'm sorry if you're not interested in the Epstein files or whatever. You can fast forward if you want, but I deeply am. So let's take a look at this. So the BBC, obviously, I have my criticisms of the BBC. I'm not a big fan. However, the BBC, they do a good job of analysing everything that comes out. So, millions of new files relating to the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein have been released by the US Department of Justice. So blah, 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 blah. So we're going to go through some of these. So 3 million pages, 180,000 images and 2,000 videos were posted publicly on Friday. See, I haven't seen any videos so far. So that's interesting to me. I want to know what that is. But some of the photos are these photos appearing to show Andrew. I like the fact they call him Andrew now and not Prince Andrew, because he's not Prince anymore. He got de-princed. Photos appearing to show Andrew on all fours over female. I don't like the way, I mean, just the language of that is so strange, but on all fours over female included in tranche of new Epstein files. So this picture's come out. And again, trigger warning, some of this stuff, I mean, I'm not going to be showing anything explicit, but obviously this is horrible. This leering, disgusting old goober. Like, there's a woman on the floor and he's like leaning over her, and it's like, why? What's going on here? And you know what he's gonna say? He's gonna go, she fell. Or like, we were doing a CPR training session. However, you can see that it's clearly in a house or a kitchen or something. And, but what is he doing? What is he up to? Prince Andrew's one of those guys, right? It's like, even I'm calling him Prince Andrew. I'm not calling him Prince Andrew anymore. I'm calling him Gross Andrew. But has there ever been a guy who is so clearly a wrong-un? And again, the gaslighting of it, you know, the fact that we're being told left, right and centre, no, he isn't. Even the Queen, you know, she bowed him out. And this is what I'm talking about. This is the kind of stuff where you have to be like, how can we support a government, a country, a monarchy that so shamelessly engages in cover-ups on this stuff, because that's what's happening. The files include details about Jeffrey Epstein's time in prison, including a psychological report, his death, blah, 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 blah. There's a picture of him looking... He has such a long face, doesn't he, Epstein? Such a very long face. Epstein invited the Duke to meet Russian woman. We don't know who the Russian woman is. We don't know anything more about that. Epstein sent money to Mandelson's husband, so Peter Mandelson, Labour's ex-ambassador. Is that what he was? He was American ambassador, Peter Mandelson. Lord Peter Mandelson. He is a homosexual who has been proven to have been on Epstein's island and friends with Epstein, and his defense was like, no, I didn't see any of the weird stuff because I'm gay, and Epstein didn't, I guess, traffic in that stuff. It's like at a certain point you have to be like, well, what were you doing there though? And is that, like, Epstein seemed to, from my own personal reading of some of the leaks and stuff, I don't think he had his interests, but in terms of like supplying to other people, he seemed to have his finger in a lot of pies, let's just say that. So I don't think that's it's not a very good get out of jail free card for Mandelson. So this is the big thing. Trump mentioned hundreds of times. Now, there are so many accusations, reports, FBI filings about Mr. President Donald Trump in this, that I think the term, no smoke without fire just becomes almost like a little bit redundant now. I mean, this isn't just smoke anymore. This is fog. That's deep, isn't it? That was quite profound what I just said there. What I'm saying is that, like, bro is on fire. Liar, pants on fire. Donald Trump is, I mean, why do you even you don't need me to tell you that Donald Trump is a creepy wrong-un. But if you take a look at some of this stuff, it might, if you're on the fence, it might help to shift you, I don't know. Elon Musk, this is a big thing. I'm not going through it in any great detail. There's like probably thousands of people on YouTube and podcasts right now doing this. But I just want to give you like a kind of, Jen's little overview on it. Elon Musk asked Epstein when the wildest party on his island will be. So there are email communications between Epstein and Elon Musk. Elon Musk, who famously said that he never went and that he didn't want to go to Epstein Island. There are emails that directly contradict that, where he is literally pestering Epstein about wanting to come to the island on the craziest days. I don't know when that is, but he's emailing on Christmas Day, which kind of gives you an idea of Elon Musk's priorities. It's like, oh, sorry, aren't you supposed to be like opening Beanie Babies with your kids or something? No, oh, you're emailing Epstein. Okay, that's normal behaviour. Bill Gates, this is a big one. Bill Gates dismisses lurid claims by Epstein as absurd and false. So there are email correspondences in which Epstein is emailing himself, kind of like geeing himself up to like email Bill Gates about how, you know, you don't want to be my friend anymore. But there's some like disturbing revelations in that about Bill Gates getting an STD and wanting to essentially like dose his own wife with anti-STD drugs against her knowledge, which is like insane. Bill Gates is not coming out of this well at all. You know, Bill Gates, the guy who like jumped over the chair. Let me show you this. I don't know if you've ever seen this. This is a classic clip.
Is it true?
So this is who we're talking about here. Bill Gates, you know, the creator of Microsoft. Bill Gates. William Gates of the Bill Gates Foundation, or Bill Gates. Computers, Bill Gates. You know, there are two computer guys. There's Bill Gates from Windows and there's Steve Jobs from Apple Mac. This is the guy, Bill Gates.
True that you can leap over a chair from a standing position?
It depends on the size of the chair. I'll cheat a little bit.
Yes! Is it true that you can leap over?
So this is who I'm talking about. This guy, Bill Gates, was in cahoots with Jeffrey Epstein, was cheating on his wife with women procured by Jeffrey Epstein, trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein. Like, it's not stuff, and this is kind of what I'm talking about. It's like, you know, when we grow up and we're introduced to, like, the stories of the way the world works, you know, like when you were a teenager and you were learning about computers and you were like, oh, am I a Windows kind of gal or am I a Apple kind of gal? Oh, I love computers. Oh, I'll learn a little bit about Bill Gates. Oh, I watched this film about the history of, you know, about how Microsoft started or whatever. And then meanwhile, what you didn't realise is behind the scenes, this guy with his cheery demeanour and his goofy little spectacled face jumping over chairs.
Is it true that you can leap over a chair from a standing position?
It depends on the size of the chair. I'll cheat a little bit.
Yes!
Meanwhile, this guy is a creepazoid. I'll tell you when I knew he was a creep, and I was a bit ahead of the curve here. I knew he was a creep when he was suggesting that we should all drink poo. Do you remember that? He had this wild idea, which I guess, you know, it's like, he was saying like, oh, it's for a good cause, because he was like, well, so many people in the world don't have drinking water, right? So he had this crazy idea, what if we could take poop and extract the water, I'm not joking, extract the water from the poo-poo, and so it's clean and there's no poo in it anymore, and then you can drink that. Or was it that, or was it about burgers made of poo? I can't remember. Let's have a look. Let's type Bill Gates poo. That's funny. That's poop jar. Here it is, look. Bill Gates drinks poop water. We're going to watch this.
Hi guys, Max Scoville here for IGN News. As part of his humanitarian work, Bill Gates has shown off a machine that turns human waste, yes, that means poop, into potable drinking water, and he's put his money where his mouth is. Well, I guess it's kind of the other way around. On his blog, Gates notes, the former Microsoft CEO describes watching piles of feces being processed through a machine, boiled and treated, the result being a glass of drinking water that he personally drank. The whole process is said to have taken about 5 minutes, which I'm willing to bet is longer than most people take to generate fecal matter in the first place. This new device is called the Omni Processor, a Gates Foundation technology that is set to begin a pilot program soon in Dakar, Senegal. It uses a steam engine to fuel itself, with clean water, pathogen-free ash, and extra electricity being its only byproduct. The processor also has a system of sensors that will allow its creators to help control it from afar during the pilot program. Gates said, "Our goal is to make the processors cheap enough that entrepreneurs in low and middle income countries will want to invest in them and then start a profitable way."
Listen, I know that Steve Jobs is not the best guy either. Like, he had his problems. Apparently he was a bit of a sociopath and things like that. Was kind of mean to his daughter. Disowned her even, I think I heard. I don't know much about Steve Jobs. I've never been, like, in the Steve Jobs-verse of it all. However, I'm glad I have a Mac. That's what I'm saying at this point. Because as far as I'm aware, I haven't seen any emails between Steve Jobs and Epstein. But Bill Gates, he wants us drinking poo.
One man's trash is another man's treasure. A lack of clean drinking water kills hundreds of thousands of people every year all over the world, so if this machine works, that's probably Nobel Prize worthy. And if it doesn't, well, you just watched a video about how Bill Gates drank doo-doo water.
So obviously, oh my god, IGN, it was weird back then. Now this was this was 11 years ago, by the way, so I don't know what the progress is on the poo water thing, but if we haven't really heard much more about it, so I'm guessing it didn't work. But let's watch Bill Gates get a pie in the face from 16 years ago.
Police and security guards in Belgium were caught flat-footed today by a cowardly sneak attack on one of the world's wealthiest men. The target...
Well, how is it a cowardly sneak attack? Maybe this person just knew about how much of a creepo weirdo Bill Gates was ahead of time. Maybe he knew 16 years ago and he had a pie ready. I like pie activism. I think it's funny. Like, have you ever seen that video of what's her name? That horrible, I can't remember her name. That horrible Section 28 era. Anita something, is that her name? Is it not Anita Bryan? I don't know. You know that, like, homophobic woman. She gets a pie in the face. I'll show you that in a second.
It was Microsoft Chairman Bill Gates arriving for a meeting with community leaders. Watch what happens when a team of hitmen meet him first with a pie in the face.
That's a good pieing as well. That was like, he really got pied, didn't he? Let's just watch that again. He really got pied. They're over here somewhere and they're about to pie it.
Gates was momentarily and understandably shaken, but he was not injured. The hit squad piled on with 2 more pies before one of them was wrestled to the ground and arrested. The others, for at least the moment, got away. Gates went...
We need to bring this back. We need to bring back the pieing, I think. Listen, I've already spoken about the whole Charlie Kirk thing on here. I'm not going to go into it again about how I feel about all that. But imagine if he'd have got pied. That would... I want to see that timeline.
Inside, wiped his face clean and made no comment. He then went ahead with his scheduled meeting. No word on the motive for this attack.
Yeah, well, I know the motive. Anyway, let's see if I was right. Was it Anita Bryant? Pie? It was Anita Bryant. Gay rights activists throw a pie in Anita Bryant's face. Hell yes.
Newsmen were questioning Miss Bryant about her national crusade against gay persons when 4 self-proclaimed homosexuals from Minneapolis interrupted today's proceedings.
You have to love 4 self-proclaimed homosexuals, especially with a pie.
If we were going to go on a crusade across the nation and try to do away with the homosexuals, then we certainly would have done it on June the 8th after one of the most overwhelming victories in the country. But we didn't. We tried to avoid it and went into a place called Norfolk, Virginia, and were met with protest and all kinds of problems. And every...
Oh, let him stay.
No.
Let him stay.
Let him stay. That was a good pieing. Again, another... I'm going to just rewind so you can see that again. It's so satisfying. Like, when someone bad gets pied... And it's never a pie, though, is it? Let's be real. It's never actually a pie. It's always a paper plate with shaving foam on it or whipped cream. That's all it ever is. Because I think people know that, like, a pie itself would be that would be an actual violent act, because pies are quite heavy and they're filled with things. Like, if you actually had, like, a real cherry pie, or maybe even like a meat pie with hot gravy in it, that's going to really hurt somebody. So what it normally is like a clown's pie, which is a paper plate with some whipped cream on it. It's not going to hurt you. It's just, and it's great because the cream like sticks to your face and it creates this kind of bizarre kind of elongation of the nose and like chin, and kind of makes you look like a moon or something. It's great. But I would like to see real pies being utilised. If you cook it well enough, if it's kind of like soft enough and not hot. In fact, I'd just like to see more pies in general, really, I think. It doesn't necessarily have to be pushed in people's faces. I'd like to see... You never see a pie on a windowsill anymore, do you? You never see a pie cooling on the windowsill, and you never see a scamp running away with the pie.
All kinds of problems, and every...
Security agent. No, let him stay.
No.
Let him stay.
Well, at least it's a fruit pie. Huh.
Let's pray for him right now. Anita, let's pray. Anita, why don't you pray? That's all right.
Father, we want to thank you.
Bryant burst into tears as...
Maybe that one was a real pie, because she said, at least it's a fruit pie. Which I have to tell you is not a good comeback. That's someone who doesn't have a lot of wit, desperately grabbing at something to save face. But like, girl, you got pied for being a nasty piece of work. And we need to be doing that. I'm going to say it. I don't care if this labels me as an agitator. We need to be pieing again. You know, when we see that like weird far-right podcast bros are having a debate, or at the Free Speech Union, we need to get a goddamn pie up in there. Bring back the pies.
As the pie ran down her face. A little while later, Bryant's husband found the four pie throwers in a parking lot talking with newsmen. The four still had a banana cream pie with them, and despite his earlier plea for non-retaliation, Bryant's husband took it and threw it in one of the pie throwers' face.
A banana cream pie, that's the perfect pie. If you're going to use a real pie, that's the perfect pie, isn't it?
Des Moines authorities say no charges will be filed in connection with today's incident. Dennis Walden, News 5.
Anita Bryant, more like I need to wash this pie off of my face. Anyway, let's get back to the Epstein stuff. So there's the Bill Gates stuff. Criticism over identification of victims. So one of the crazy things is that, like, you know, there's all this talk about, oh, we have to heavily redact the files because, you know, I know we said we were going to release them properly, but we have to redact them because, you know, we don't want to jeopardize the victims' anonymity and safety. We don't want to, you know, make the victims re-victimized. Meanwhile, most of the redactions seem to be not victims. They seem to be perpetrators, if anything. And various victims have been left unredacted. So that's a huge mess up on the part of whoever's doing it. Have all the Epstein files now been released? It's uncertain. No, they haven't. They haven't. I mean, there's loads. If you're releasing them in like million batches, you got to think there must be a few more files out there. Anyway, I think I've gone on about Epstein for long enough. You're not going to need me to give my take on it. If anything else of note comes out, then we'll add it to the doc, and we'll talk about it. But there's a lot of good YouTube channels covering it more in depth. And if you really want to, if you feel like you can handle it, you can go on the Department of Justice website and you can download like 3 million Epstein files if you want, for free, without logging in. All you have to do is say, I'm 18, and you can do it. I'm not going to do that, because then this podcast would be it would be about 3 million hours too long. But that's just something I've been thinking about lately. I'm very fascinated by it all, and hopeful that it's going to shake out in some sort of meaningful way. I would very much like to see some of these creepazoids, these freaks, these goobers, these wrong-uns, these absolute... I'm going to use strong language here. These absolute beans. I want to see them brought to justice. And I want to see Donald Trump pied. Ceremonially pied. Custard pied. In public. Also imprisoned for life, but also pied. I'm going to wrap up in a minute because it's been going on a long time, but I'm going to let you in on a little secret of mine. So something that's been helping me a lot lately is Tetris. I've been getting into Tetris, seriously, really have been getting into it. And listen, I'm not new to Tetris. I've been playing Tetris a really long time. But recently, as of late, it's really been helping me. Because, I don't know, it gives me something to focus on. I've been playing it when I wake up. It kind of gets my brain back into it. And I'm not going to sit here and claim to you that I'm the queen of Tetris. I know there's probably some psycho Tetris players out there who are really amazing, who can get a bazillion Tetris lines in a second or whatever. But I don't think I'm terrible at it. I think I'm okay at it. I play it on my little handheld thing, and I can get I can get to about level 15, and then it starts to get a bit too fast for me. But what I want to just talk about briefly here is I think I've been thinking about this a lot. I don't know how to kind of articulate it, but Tetris I've been finding really helpful because Tetris is teaching me something, I think. It's kind of teaching me that you can fuck up, but you can still, if you persevere and concentrate hard enough, you can still bring it back. You can get back on track. There are times in Tetris where you're oh my god, I'm doomed. This is it. It's over. The blocks are not making sense. I'm gonna die. But then you clear a couple of lines, and then you get lucky a couple of times. But then you start to kind of zone in on it. You kind of start to see behind the veil. You kind of enter the matrix of it, and you kind of. Sometimes you see which one is coming next, but sometimes you're playing 3 steps ahead, and it's empowering, and you're oh my god, I'm gonna get right back down to the bottom, and you clear it all. But then you also know that there's no winning in Tetris. It will defeat you. It will get so fast that it becomes impossible, and entropy will bring you down. Because all things, it must come to an end. And I don't know why, but the routine of playing Tetris multiple times a day, not too much, but play a little bit in the morning, play a little bit in the afternoon, play a little bit at night. I'm still working on my kind of philosophy of it, my theory of it. But basically, I've just been finding it incredibly helpful. for some reason. It's really helping me to focus, and it's helping me to stay positive somehow. And, you know, I'm not even big into computer games. I don't have the patience for them, but God, I've been in love with Tetris. So I thought a fun way to end out the podcast today would be with a game of Tetris. And I know I'm not gonna be good, okay? Because Tetris is like so many things. When you're observed doing it, it's harder. When I'm laying in bed and I'm on my little handheld thing and I'm getting up to level 15, I'm like, hell yeah, I rock at this. But on the podcast, it's going to be more difficult. I know that. But what I want to do is I want to embrace that, and I want to make Tetris a part of the podcast. So I don't know if I'll do it every week, but we're doing it this week. We're going to end with Tetris. And before I go and play this insane round of Tetris, I want to say thank you so much for sticking with me. I really appreciate it. Thank you to everyone who's remained a member during this rocky period where I wasn't really sure, you know, what I was going to do or whatever. If you are interested in becoming a member or a Patreon, there will, as always, be a longer episode of the podcast for you. What you're watching now, if you're just like a non-member or not a patron, just public watching, this is like a much shorter version of the podcast. The actual podcast is going to be like largely unedited, probably about an hour and a half to hour and 45 minutes long. So if you're interested in that, you can become a member or a patron. Again, links in bio. If not, it's totally cool, but thanks for watching. Again, I'd just like to remind you that I have a book, Jump Doggy. I'm very proud of it. Consider getting one if you want one, if you're into short stories. Let's play Tetris and let's end this podcast, and I'll have the patrons and members coming up. But as I play Tetris, maybe that'd be a nice idea. See if I can do that. Okay, look, you can see my so it remembered my scores, which is nuts. As you can see here, I got 38,376. I don't know if that's good, but let's do it again. Also, if you're listening to the podcast and not watching the podcast, this is going to be like awful. It's going to be like unbearable for you. So sorry about that. But there's nothing I can do. You're just going to have... So if you're just listening, just enjoy the Tetris music, I suppose. There's a line. Got one already. See? Put that there. Okay, yeah, you get the commentary from me. I was wondering if I was going to be able to do a commentary or if I was going to have to just concentrate too hard. If anyone's got any Tetris advice for me, like any kind of, you know, strategy recommendations, then please do let me know. Also, I can do that. I forgot. Yeah, you can just like, if you press space, you can make it like zoom down. And as if you're like playing like super pro. And as I say, I'm not under any, you know, illusions here. I don't think I'm a pro or anything. But I do think that I'm on my way to becoming a pro, or I can at least imagine myself being a pro. Like, if there was a game that I was going to be a pro at, it'd be this one, basically. I was telling my boyfriend that these blocks are called tetraminos. And I have to be honest, as I was telling him it, I wasn't entirely sure if that was true, or if it's just something that I heard somewhere and is actually bullshit. I think what I'm going to do before the next episode next week is that I'm going to watch the Tetris movie. You know, there was a movie about Tetris. I'm going to watch that and then I'm going to review it. And I'm going to let you know if they are called Tetraminos, and maybe we'll do like a deep dive on Tetris. I do realise that I might potentially be alienating a lot of the people that kind of initially joined this channel to hear me talk about trans issues and things. But for me, going into 2026, the T in LGBT, as far as I'm concerned now, is Tetris. As you can see, I know what I'm doing. Okay, I just massively messed up there because I pressed space instead of up, and up is what you use to turn the piece. However, just because I messed up, this is what I'm talking about, it doesn't mean that we're beyond saving. There's always, what I love about Tetris is, there's not always a way to get out of it, but there frequently is a way. As long as you keep your wits about you, you can clear it. And I don't know, I just think that's a nice way to look at life, maybe. Sometimes when things feel like they're on top of you, like there might be no way out, if you focus, and you keep calm, and you breathe, which is always good advice, there may just be the right block around the corner coming to save the day for you. Ultimately, you will lose. You will die. We all die, basically, without getting too deep. But as long as you're having fun, then you've not wasted your life. See? I told you we'd clear it. I did say that we'd clear it, and we did. And as you can see, I've glanced over, and there is sure enough a big square coming up. See? Now you don't always want to go for clearing the lines. It's not always the thing that you want to do. Sometimes you want to hold off a little bit so you can get double lines or triple lines. Now, I'm definitely not going to get to level 15 on this version of Tetris because it is trickier than the one that I play on Game Boy. But we might just beat my high score. As you can see, I've kind of stopped talking because I'm trying to concentrate here. You'll agree that was pretty good, what just happened there. You will agree. Maybe I'm better when people are watching. Maybe that's what I need to... Look at that, 3 lines in a row, gosh. Maybe I found my calling, you know. Stand-up comedy, maybe it wasn't for me. Maybe writing isn't for me. Maybe what's for me is just the Tetris life. If I can maybe find a way to monetize this, to make money playing Tetris professionally, maybe I'll be set. Because as you can see, I'm kind of changing the game. Let me know, are trans people allowed to play Tetris professionally? Or, like in so many sports, do we apparently have an unfair advantage? I don't feel like I have an unfair advantage in Tetris. But who knows these days? Remember when they were saying that, you know, the darts players have an unfair advantage? Trans snooker players apparently have an unfair advantage. I'm starting to think they just might not like us very much. It's going too fast now and I'm panicking. See, this is... It gets to a point where it gets messy because it's just going... It's just too fast. Like, I'm not playing as smart as I was before. Because now I'm just trying to sort of preempt things. I don't know. It's getting too mad now. But I'm not going to give up. I can feel it coming to an end. I died. And I told you I was going to. It's inescapable. You will always die. But I did get 42,617, which I think you'll find is a personal best. Pretty damn good. You can see my progression there. And if you were watching me play my version, the Game Boy Color Tetris DX, you'd really see something. Maybe next week I'll set it up with the tripod so you can watch me play the actual real one. Anyway, I think there's probably a good point to leave the podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, I hope you have a nice week. And I'll see you same time next week. What do you reckon? What do you say? Thank you. Bye-bye.